Yeah, moving from one fantastic event to another, CPL to JPL. Yeah, we're back on the SportsMax zone. In what seems like the blink of an eye, the weekend is up on us, and you know what that means. The second round of matches in the Rare Nephew Jamaica Premier League just days away. Let's see what is on the menu. Sunday, the 22nd of September, Racing United, looking for their first win of the season, will play Dunbeholden, themselves looking for a first win. Molynes versus Tivoli Gardens. Molynes United, like Tivoli, entering the competition. They will play Vere Phoenix United, who are seeking their first win, although the Jamaica Football Federation says there's no such thing on their books as Vere Phoenix. There is Cavalier versus Portmore United. That will be live on SportsMax too. The Molynes Vere game will be on SportsMax. And then on Monday, Montego Bay United versus Harbourview, that will be live on SportsMax too. A couple of games not been played this match week. Chapelton Maroons versus Arnett Gardens and Mount Pleasant versus Waterhouse. That is because Arnett Gardens and Mount Pleasant are involved in CONCACAF Caribbean Cup football. All right, wasting no time because we have none to waste. Joining us to get into the meat of the matter and preview these matchups is our in-house football analyst, my very good friend, Lejay Williams, who is in a good mood, just as good a mood as I am in this afternoon. But Lejay, some good matches coming up this weekend. I must admit the one that caught my eye immediately is the Vere Phoenix. I really don't know what is the appropriate name these days, but that's the one that caught my eye, especially after the opening match week where they lost by 4-1 to Montego Bay United.
Yeah, I think that's a standout fixture for me as well, especially from an entertainment perspective. You know, that game that they lost to Montego Bay United wasn't a TV game, unfortunately. So we'll be getting to see them, and the fans at home will be getting to see them in their full glory. You know, they mentioned that they didn't have a lot of players available for that first game, so hopefully a lot of the players that they brought in over the summer window will become available for this game, and we'll get to see Vere Phoenix in, you know, their full frightening stage as their coach, one of their coaches, Craig Butler, would like to put it.
Yeah, and Molynes, their first match of the season. What are your expectations? Because we didn't get to see Molynes at all yet.
Yeah, Molynes, I think once Jermaine Thomas came in last season, about 10 games in, they started to look much more solid. They started to, you know, put more performances together. It wasn't necessarily a playoff pace. It wasn't necessarily make them a playoff team, but I do think that they showed some positive signs. Do I think that they strengthened enough in the transfer window to really break through that glass pane and try and become a playoff team? I'm not quite sure, but they have a solid coach, they have some solid players. So I think it will be an interesting test for both Molynes and Vere Phoenix to see what they can do on Sunday, and it's definitely a game I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, you know, watched the opening weekend, Racing United. I thought they were pretty good, although they ended up losing that game to Waterhouse. Dunbeholden, I wasn't impressed with. It looked like a team that has not quite put in the work yet in training, and is as if the season probably came a month early for them. Racing, Dunbeholden, two St. Catherine teams will go head-to-head looking for their first point of the season. How good are you expecting that one to be?
I think it's going to be a tight game because, as you said, when it comes down to Dunbeholden, I think they clearly have a talent. There's clearly a bit of a talent gap between the both teams in terms of the squad that each coach would have available to them. But when I think about Dunbeholden, I'm not usually one to say this about a Philip Williams coach team, but in all honesty, in my estimation, that Dunbeholden looked terrible against Arnett Gardens, you know, in all facets of play, not necessarily offensively alone or defensively alone. Their build-up, all of their midfield structure, I think they just had a really, really poor game. Hopefully, some of those things could be ironed out on the training pitch because, as I said, that's not something I generally associate with Philip Williams' coach team. We've seen him with, say, Andrew Technical. We've seen him with Tivoli. We've seen him with especially Portmore in the Jamaica Premier League. And he's a coach that is really strong on rigidity. He's a coach that really strong on defensive solidity. And Dunbeholden were the exact opposite of that in their first game against Arnett. Maybe it was just a first game jitter. hopefully for them it was that, but I do think that this will be a good game, especially because of the performance that we saw Racing put in their first game against Waterhouse.
Yeah, and quickly on Racing United, so much has been made of youth in the Jamaica Premier League in recent seasons especially, and we saw 19-year-old Nikhil Ellis in the Racing midfield, and he was impressive. And I think you said it to me when we were on commentary. Is this the same guy that we saw playing for St. Catherine in the Manning Cup a few seasons ago? Well, he looks like quite a talent.
I know you said quickly, Ricardo, but I have to talk about him because that performance moved me so much, Nikhil Ellis. You know, I have to also give a shout out to my schoolboy football producer, Phil, because 2 seasons ago during the Whisper season, I guess we can call it the Whisper season,
yeah.
He was saying that we should include Nikhil Ellis in the team of the season, but I personally hadn't done any St. Catherine games for the season, so I only heard about him. It was a word of mouth thing. I heard he was one of the best players in Manning Cup, yes, but then, you know, he kind of disappeared from the Manning Cup scene, went to Tier 2 to play for Racing United. I hadn't seen him. But that first game, I want people to cast their minds back to a young Tyreek McGee when he was playing for Harbourview. And yes, he was still playing for Jamaica College, but, you know, he ran the midfield like something that we would see from an experienced 30-year-old midfielder just bossing things. That midfield performance from Nikhil Ellis against Waterhouse for Racing United was, and this is not hyperbole, was one of the best midfield performances I have seen live while covering Jamaica Premier League, and this is now my 3rd season. He was absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to see more of him this season.
And he said he could do better because apparently he was a little nervous. He is 19 years old. This was his first time in the Jamaica Premier League. So if you take all of that into consideration, and Leje was so impressed with what he saw, then boy, oh boy.
Yeah, and speaking about being impressed, we have to talk about Cavalier versus Portmore. And one of the things they're everybody's stressing on is that in the transfer season, Cavalier lost 7 of their players, and now they're going to be focusing on the youngsters. So, did you see anybody in Cavalier like Nikhil that you just mentioned that has been impressive too, and we can watch?
I mean, they always have, you know, a full slate of young players, but they have a couple returning from last year. I've only gotten to see Cavalier in the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup, which they're doing pretty well in. Got a couple of wins their last game against Real Hope from Haiti, but, you know, they still have Adrian Reed, who will be playing at the base of their midfield. He's always been a player that I'm extremely intrigued about. I think that he's a fantastic holding midfielder as well. I think we might see, especially, well, there's a new rule kind of stopping schoolboy football players from playing JPL now.
Yeah.
So
we discussed it.
And you say kind of because they are allowed to play. They just have to rest for 6 days
exactly,
if they play a JPL game.
So whether or not I agree or disagree with the rule, I do think that would stop a lot of the Cavalier youngsters from taking part. Maybe a Gooden from, say, Andrew Technical, who I think is one of the brighter centre-backs in the league, young centre-backs in the league, or could be. So I think this Cavalier team, I'll have them as favourites going into that Portmore game, because Portmore, they didn't look very inspiring against Mount Pleasant, in all honesty.
They lost.
They lost. They seemed, but more than that, they also seemed very unsure of the type of football they wanted to play, the type of system they wanted to play, and that just seems like a recipe for disaster. But to be kind to them, they did lose what they thought was going to be their new and progressive head coach right before the season started in Davian Ferguson. So I guess it's a piece of adjustment for the players that they got in, for the players that were there before, and also for their assistant coach turned head coach in Rudolph Austin. So I think it's an adjustment period for them, but I see Cavalier as favourites in that game.
I never got your view on Rudolph Austin, and what do you think of him as a coach for this team?
I think we'll have to wait and see. I think that he probably has some growing to do. But it's early days. He just was an assistant coach for so long, so we'll have to wait and see a bit.
Wow.
Yeah, wait and see, we shall see. Yeah, I just heard the final whistle. 90 minutes up already, plus added time. Leje Williams, thanks very much for joining us talking Jamaica Premier League football. Watch it all on SportsMax platforms. It could be on SportsMax Plus, SportsMax, SportsMax 2, SportsMax YouTube. Yeah, just check it all. You could be somewhere where you have seen, and you can watch it there as well. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more after this. Zone Update 2 plus La Liga. And remember, we have those SportsMax Class Moment nominations. I wonder if our producer got it right this week. We'll be back.